And so that means, though, that because we're all just pushed in the consumer direction by crisis and by anxiety, because we can't imagine using our political, our will physically, like to actually change the world, we have to consume. Because if we were to actually take power or try to take power in our hands, it would involve violence. It would involve a breaking of the fake peace of capitalism, which was put over the whole globe after World War II, and that said we are subsuming conflict into a political battle over resources in order to maintain the conditions of the game and maintain the actual biome. But once that battle was won by capital, there was no more resistance to it, and it overtook the entire world. And now, as the ability to continue to offer consumption as an alternative to action goes away, people start doing action. People start acting, and that means acting violently. And now that violence is undermining the non-existent social fabric we already have, and is being met in response by the creation of this techno, industrial, military, panopticon surveillance hell state that we're all already living in, that exists to keep us from expressing ourselves, from expressing a will to any kind of control of our lives. But that alienation is already hitting culture and is only going to hit it worse. And I think that the candy is going to stop tasting good enough to keep you hooked to it, and things are going to start shifting. And that's scary because we can only imagine any change being bad. And part of that is because we can't imagine a future with a lower standard of living as superior to this time. And the fact is, there absolutely is a world where people are eating the bugs and living in the pods, and it is not worse than this. In fact, it is better, and it is salvation. It is, if the buds and the pods are what a socialized instrument of government representing a truly democratic will chooses to do to meet the real crisis created by capitalist overconsumption. And the I won't eat the pods, I won't eat the bugs thing comes from a fact that people have no faith that anyone giving the bugs and pods could be anything other than an agent of Goldman Sachs. And of course, because we can't imagine an alternative. But honestly, one of the things holding us back is that even people who aren't, culturally neurotic about those issues and about masculinity the way that those people are, and that want fully luxury automated space communism, are like, no, actually, don't tell people that, because the future is going to be like now, only there's going to be robot butlers. It's going to be like the Jetsons, but everybody. It essentially says the consumer-based identity of a late 20th century American subject, we should universalize that through technology. But you cannot do that. You would have to squeeze the poor end of the human race into a pulp to do that. And at the end of it, you had just created the fucking decadent, monstrous elite of Zardoz, who would destroy themselves from neuroses from within as their pleasure went away with them with time. It's just that when we imagine the future, we imagine no matter what the regime is, no matter what the powers that be are, that it will be good or bad to the degree that it allows me to continue being me as I understand myself. But that conception, that identity, is a consumer artifact. that through struggle would be broken down by definition. Because none of this could be imposed at this point. Capitalism has run out of runway. There's no more deals to be struck. There are only conditions to be imposed at the barrel of a gun. Because there's no organized resistance. The deal, the cheap food, the cheap fucking consumer goods, the idle time, the inefficiency allowed into the heart of the system is going to be squeezed out. One way or the other. Is it going to be squeezed out by people negotiating us away from planetary suicide, or by the reptile-brained monsters who imagine themselves as like eternal god emperors in space, as they gallop us to extinguishment, following a fantasy into annihilation. The fucking Crimson King gibbering and jabbering in the Dark Tower. It's because they view the bugs in the pod and the soylent, and they view all that stuff through the lens of their consumer identity. Well, if I ate that stuff, I would be cucked. We're fetishizing an identity that is composed almost entirely of our coping mechanisms to deal with living under capitalism, and that would be fundamentally different and differently arranged under socialism, or under even the pursuit of socialism, the earnest pursuit of socialism. We need all of these creature comforts, and we grasp them so tightly because we can only imagine losing them. We can't imagine gaining anything by exchanging them. Because we have no faith in a project.